so something else that I do with my lettuce, and you're probably wondering, why on earth am I on a webpage? Well, I'm going to show you something. So I'm here at Mother Earth News, and something that I really love doing in my garden is called companion planting. So we're going to go down here to lettuce. So lettuce, here we go. So something that I put in with my lettuce when it's young, not maybe when the plants are more mature because they need that root space. But like today, when I just planted that lettuce, something that I'm going to be doing out there is planting some beets or radishes. Maybe it's just 1 or 2 plants or, things like that. But I am going to companion plant and use the most space I have in my garden. So radishes are honestly my favorite. Beets, because they take a little bit longer. I don't usually care to plant the beets because then they start to compete with root space. But I will plant radishes in between my rows or my blocks of lettuce. Now, you don't want your lettuce near anything that's like with the cabbage family, the brassicas. That's cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, things like that. The reason you don't want those together is the brassica family, the cabbage family, invite certain pests that will happily eat those brassicas, but then annihilate your lettuce. So it's best to just keep those guys away from each other. And then there's a comment there. It says that they tenderize summer radishes. I honestly don't know if that's true. I have never noticed a difference. Maybe it's true. I don't know. Something, it's not listed right there, but something else that I do plant in my gardens around all my plants, honestly, is basil, rosemary, sage, thyme, let's see what else, dill. I will intermingle different herbs because the smell that comes from the herbs irritates and confuses garden pests. Therefore, those pests have such a hard time because of the smell that's intermingling. They will usually, instead of arguing, trying to find something in your garden, they will go somewhere else. They'll go to the neighbor's garden. They'll go somewhere else. So if you can intermingle your herbs, absolutely go for it. Now, something else that I wanted to show you guys when it comes to companion planting. So you've got your lettuce right here. This does say on this particular chart that you can put it near beets, broccoli, bush beans, pole beans, dill, carrots, cucumbers, onions, radishes, and strawberries. And it says to keep away from cabbage. Honestly, if you're keeping it away from cabbage, you really probably should consider keeping it away from the broccoli and the other brassicas. Now, how can you plant it around cucumbers, things like that? The best way to plant your lettuce around cucumbers is if you're vining your cucumbers up a trellis. Bush cucumbers, not so much. They will actually overrun your lettuce and push your lettuce out. They'll just shade it and it's gone. Now, if it's early in the season and you plan on only having that lettuce for a short amount of time, then go ahead, plant it with your bush or even vining cucumbers because, they're going to take a while to bush out. And then, so anyway, if you've got a trellis system and you're growing up a trellis, let me go in here a little bit for y'all. If you're going up the trellis with it, you can plant the lettuce on the shaded side. Lettuce is not a big fan of a lot of sun and a lot of heat. Too much sun, too much heat, it's going to bolt, which means it's going to start setting the seeds. It's gone into survival mode, reproduction. So that lettuce, if you plant it on the north side of a trellis, or even the east or west side, whichever side's going to get some sunlight, but maybe not too much, it's going to appreciate that. So what can you trellis? You can trellis your cucumbers, you can trellis beans, things like that, not a problem. Now onions, if it was me and I'm planting it with my onions, I would do the same thing as if the onions were a trellis. I would plant the onions and then I would put the lettuce on the side of the onions that's going to receive less light. That's how I would situate mine. All right, let's jump on here to permies.com. What you're looking at is a keyhole garden with plants broken down into guilds. So leafy greens right here has a long list of different things that are leafy greens. spinach, lettuce, arugula, chard, pak choi, kale, celery, dandelions, and clover. So what we can do is we can go to some of these circles here. So let's go to this one here. This little green guy says kale. So instead of planting kale there, you could plant your lettuce. That's around the large broccoli plant, and then you plant around it different plants that are typically going to get along. Now, remember, I said lettuce is probably not your best option around brassicas, those cabbage family, broccoli family, but there's another chart that says it works. So if you want to try it, absolutely go for it. Or take the broccoli out, and maybe what I would do is I would take the broccoli out, put the tomato in the middle, because I mean, come on, let's be honest, the tomatoes get pretty big. Maybe instead of an indeterminate climbing tomato, put a determinate bushing tomato in there and plant around it. So there's a keyhole garden right there. This is at permies.com. You can print these out. Here's another breakdown of just different things that get along, different guilds. So here we go. You could plant it around beans. There's there's so many things here. It'll show you all these different options for your planting in your garden. So there's a lot of different ways that you can plant your lettuce instead of just in rows or in blocks. You can do guilds to help the garden produce better, stronger plants. Something else that I really enjoy tinkering with in my gardens, and I shouldn't say gardens, it's something I enjoy tinkering with. It's called permaculture. It's where you've got what you're growing, but you try to make it so it's always there in a sense. And a lot of times it's based around trees. It's around like in your yard and your edges and everything like that. So if you look at this picture, you see all these wonderful things that are intergrowing together. They're not in your typical rows like gardens, but this would be like in a yard where this is a fence line, let's say, and then these little fingers come into your yard and you can walk around and pick and pull from these. And these are all little plants that this is where your guild, remember I showed you the guild. This is where you take what grows together the best, and you take these guilds and you put them together to make edible landscaping. You know, what's really, really cool about this is like here on our property, I would have a tree right here, and I'd have a tree right here, and I'd have a tree right here. And I would honestly, when I have a tree, I would take like some of my beans, I'd plant them around the base of the tree, or my cucumbers, and guess what? They're climbing that tree. You can also do it with grapes. Grapes will climb a tree. And then you've got a way for your grape. You've got a natural grape arbor. So there you go. You know, there are plenty of different ways that you can experiment. You don't have to grow in a typical garden with your plants. You can absolutely have fun with this with your garden. Well, hopefully I have answered as many questions as possible on growing lettuce. I'm sure I've missed something. If you have a question, please, please, please ask. I'm not going to judge you. I see that all the time where people will ask questions about gardening and they get their heads ripped off for asking a stupid question. There is no stupid questions. We are all learning. I've been doing this for so many years and I still will see a question asked and I'm like, that makes you think. So please, if there's something I haven't hit on, or maybe I touched on it, but I didn't explain it enough, let me know. We could totally talk about it. I'll make you your own video, on something that you're interested in. But please, 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 ask questions. But number one, just plant. Get gardening. If you fail, try again. It's not going to hurt to just keep trying, keep playing. You would be surprised at how many failures I have underneath my belt. How many times I have failed. But when you succeed, it's the most amazing feeling in the whole world. And right now, everybody needs to be trying. Everybody has got to put their best foot forward and give this a shot. Because this doesn't look like a lot, but you'd be surprised at how many salads, how many meals you can make with lettuce. Yep, it's great for a salad. I dehydrate them and sprinkle a little salt on them. Lettuce chips. You can take these, dehydrate them, and grind them up for smoothies. The point is, now is the time to be gardening. Now is the time to be growing your own food. If you have never ever done it before, I want you to try, and I want you to reach out and ask questions.